There's a bike that is synonymous with speed, a legendary name that is instantly recognizable. Even those who don't ride know what it means. It's simply two characters, R6. Can you imagine a more purposeful shape than this? I mean, this is a quintessential sport bike. It simply evokes emotion standing still. And after 2 decades of track dominance, it's kind of easy to see why. It has this cheetah-like stance and this wasp-like face that says if you're gonna swing a leg over this machine, you better know what you're doing. Winning a bunch of races and being super fast and cool is one thing, but the R6 is truly unique in the world of motorcycling. And there's a secret reason why this bike has enjoyed so much popularity and success in the modern day of motorcycling history. And what is that secret reason, you might ask? Well, it's actually quite simple, but first, let me tell you what makes this 2008 Yamaha R6 so special. When I was a kid, I always dreamt of riding motorcycles. I knew that I would ride them one day eventually, much to the chagrin of my parents. I dreamt about them, I rode on the back of them on friends and family's bikes, I saw them on the highways, and most importantly, I lived during the golden era of Valentino Rossi and Yamaha. If you grew up in the early to mid 2000s like I did and you had any interest in motorcycling, you knew about Valentino Rossi and most importantly, Yamaha. Rossi had made the switch to Yamaha in 2004 and won his very first race on the bike. He famously kneeled down and kissed the bike, and from that day, I knew that Yamaha was a special brand. Something about the R-bike styling spoke to me, and well, you see the channel name, don't you? It was 2009, Valentino was at the height of his powers as a 9-time world champion. I was 17 years old at the time, and I knew that I had to get a motorcycle. I was so hungry to get one, so I started doing some research, and I found a bike that looked a lot like this one, a 2008 Yamaha YZF R6. I fell in love right then and there. It was speed incarnate. I knew I had to have it, so surprise, many years later, I actually bought this one. But hear me out, I already own way too many motorcycles. I have an H2, a Turbo Hayabusa, my dream track bike, and like 3 other motorcycles that aren't even here at Yamaha HQ. And to be honest, if my wife catches wind that I bought an R6, she's gonna have me sleeping here at the office. But I do have Yamaha blocked on her computer, so we should be all right. Which is why I'm giving away this Yamaha R6 to one of you lucky people in the audience right now. If you want to get entered to win this motorcycle, go to the links down below and become a member on our website. You'll get max entries for the month to win this thing. And alternatively, you can go to shop.yamanoob.co and pick out anything you want and get 3x entries for every $1 you spend. I really don't want to give this thing away. I am bonded to this thing, but I also really don't want to live here at the shop. So do me a favor, head over to the website and get entered to win this fantastic motorcycle. But I promised you a secret reason why the R6 became such a legendary motorcycle, and the secret is right here. This 599cc inline 4-cylinder engine, the beating heart of this motorcycle, revving all the way to 17,000 RPM. Or was it 15,800 or 16,200? Okay, Yamaha fudged the numbers a little bit on the RPMs, but this is still a race bike with a race engine with a factory warranty that makes a ridiculous amount of power and revs out super sky high. That's what makes this thing so special. But there's so much more than meets the eye with this engine right here. Yamaha implemented a YCCT ride-by-wire throttle spaceship technology back in 2007. They also had YCCI, which is a variable length intake trumpet stack called the Yamaha chip-controlled intake. At low revs, the intake air is fed with the fuel injection's velocity stacks in their long configuration for more torque, but the system electronically converts to a short intake track at 13,700 RPM for optimum performance at the top end. A staggering 13.1:1 compression ratio aids torque production. Yamaha also tweaked the internals to reduce internal friction, freeing up more horsepower in the upper range. The MotoGP-inspired stumpy exhaust is titanium from the factory and has the X-up valve, which helps the power band. This 2008 model is one of the very best years you can find too. The Yamaha R6 received a massive update in 2006 to keep up in the 600cc sport bike wars of the mid-2000s, but in 2008, they updated it even more. It made a whopping 127 horsepower at 14,500 RPM and 43 foot-pounds of torque.
This bike had loads of updates that made it even sharper to ride. It still had the Delta box aluminum frame, and the razor sharp handling would always be there.
The R6's engine is truly the star of the show, and at the risk of sounding like an old fogey, they just don't make them like they used to. I mean, the new R7 is a great motorcycle, and it really matches the time that it's in, but the R6 is the genuine article. And if you don't believe me, take a listen to how this bike sounds, and I may just convince you. I think now we can take a moment to talk about the design of this motorcycle too. I mean, it's 17 years old. Can you believe that? And it still looks just as good as it did back in the mid-2000s. I think in 2023, this is a bike that can still turn heads regardless of what you know about motorcycles, just because of its aggressive stance and its aggressive look. I think for a lot of people, Yamaha R bikes are legendary just because of the way they look. And here's the thing, there were plenty of other 600cc motorcycles made during this time. You had the Honda CBR 600RR, the Kawasaki ZX6, and hell, even the Suzuki Gixxer 600 for all the squids out there. I'll pat you guys on the head for that one. But can you honestly tell me that any of those motorcycles had the same panache as a 2008 to 2016 body style R6? I don't think so. This is the king, no doubt about it. And also, this motorcycle doesn't have the branding of a fax machine. It has a very simple name to understand, R6. Gotta give my hats off to Yamaha's marketing department for that one. The Yamaha R6 toes a bit of an interesting line. On the one hand, nobody's really extracting meaningful performance out of their R6 on a weekend ride, despite what you may hear on YouTube or the forums. But on the other hand, Yamaha has engineered a bike that with a little over 120 horsepower and a two-stroke-like power band, you kind of feel like a superhero when you're riding the thing. It's an extremely exciting motorcycle to ride, and the fact that it's engineered in this fun way makes you want to explore the limits of the bike a little bit. And to be honest, I think this quote from motorcycle.com in 1999 sums it up pretty well. Basically, if the YZF R6 could be bottled and sold on street corners, we'd end up junkies, trading in our homes for shopping carts, hanging around recycling centers, rummaging through trash bins for cans and bottles, anything to scrounge up enough cash for one more glorious hit at 15,500 revolutions per minute. Rehab be damned.
It all comes back to passion. We can feel it, we can resonate with it. That's why I say it's difficult to fall in love with something like the BMW S1000RR. There's an X factor with certain motorcycles, the combination of styling, power band, rider feedback, and fun factor. The R6 carries all of those in spades. The bike is from a time that is no longer with us. Before Gen Z kids were building wrapped 1,000 horsepower BMWs for TikTok, before the mindless scrolling and overabundance of content, and most importantly, before 200 horsepower was the minimum required to even have a seat at the table of motorcycling.
So this giveaway is for all of you out there, for the passion we feel about motorcycling, for those who love sky-high RPMs and those who want motorcycles that just make no sense to own because guess what? Motorcycling makes no damn sense. If you want a sport bike, accept no substitute. Mount up on an R6 and zing it out to 16,000 RPM. So hit the link down below and make sure you get your max entries for the month to win this Yamaha R6. You're not gonna wanna miss that. My first ride and impressions of this motorcycle are coming out tomorrow as well. Make sure you stay tuned for that. We may never see a motorcycle quite like the R6 ever again, but I know that enthusiasts like you guys out there are gonna keep these things alive for decades to come. Thank you so much for watching. I truly do appreciate it. I'll catch you on the next one. I got a bone to pick with you. You're out there doing all them dang wheelers on your H2s and your Groms and your Hayabusas and all that. That ain't gonna get you nowhere. You gotta take action. You gotta get yourself fixed up. You gotta find Rossi. You gotta find God. Click this video right here over on Yaminu. You keep watching yourself these videos. You're gonna get fixed. You're gonna get saved. You're gonna get fixed today.